Let's come back from the break, please. My name is Felicia Orth, hearing officer designated by the board to conduct a hearing in EIB 2127. We've reached the 5 p.m. public comment session. We have public comment sessions every day at 9, 1, and 5. I have two folks who reached out to the board's administrator, Pam Jones, to offer public comment at 5 before we return to the technical case. Dr. Kathy Mezoff, and by the way, if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize in advance, and Matthew Allen. So let me see if I can find Dr. Mezoff. I don't see Dr. Mezoff by name. I do see a couple of call-in users. So let me unmute call-in user 15. If this is you, Dr. Mezoff, please speak up. Hello? Who is this? I don't think that was the right number. Now we have call-in user number 16. I'll unmute call-in user number 16. Who's this, please? No. All right. As with all of our sessions, in the event you're unable to make the time you had requested, happy to accept your comment at another time. Also, if you're on the platform, and regardless of whether you reached out with an email, please reach out through the chat if you'd like to offer your comment now and haven't previously made a comment. Let me look for Matthew Allen. I don't see Mr. Allen either. Okay. I think then, and I don't see anyone requesting comment in the chat. Let's see. Kathy has tried to call in, cannot get in by phone. Okay, it says the access code is wrong. Let me see if I can find an access code. I see 2593-209-8894. Oh, the dial-in number for the United States, it says 1-650-479-3208. Let me see here, and the access code is 2593-209-8894. Oh, I was speaking too fast. Excuse me while I do this again. The number is 650-479-3208. And the access code is 2593-209-8894. So let's wait just a moment to see if we can get Dr. Mezoff on the line. I'll look again for Mr. Allen. I don't see him. By the way, I did have a request from Mr. Larry Sontag that the attendees be allowed to see other attendees. And I have zero objection to attendees being allowed to see other attendees. Obviously, if we were in an auditorium together somewhere, you could look around and see who is in the room. I will say, though, I looked to see if I could do it. The option for allowing attendees to see other attendees is grayed out, and I don't have that option. So I'm sorry if that's a frustration for folks. This is a Cisco event rather than a Cisco meeting, and so that might have something to do with that setting. I'm not sure. In any event, I'm sorry about that. Let's see. I don't see. I'll unmute this caller. Caller 16. Who is this? No. And I'll unmute caller 15 one more time. Caller 15. Who is this? Hello? Okay. All right. Oh, now I have a caller 19. Dr. Mezoff, is this you?
Yes, it is.
Ha, great. We have a winner. Dr. Mezoff, this is the public comment session at 5 p.m. On
Okay.
this day of hearing. Public comment is taken under oath, is limited to 5 minutes, and is taken with audio rather than video. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Thank you. I'm going to start your 5 minutes now.
Thank you. Dear members of the Environmental Improvement Board, I am Dr. Kathy Mezoff, a retired pediatrician who practiced in Gallup at the Rehoboth McKinley Christian Hospital for 34 years. You'd be right to suspect that as a pediatrician,
Dr. Mezoff,
I have a very special...
hold on. I'm sorry. I'll start your time again. Your voice got muddy, and we're making a transcript, so it's important that we hear you.
And I need her spelling, please, of her name also. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask you that, Dr. Mezoff. Would you spell your name, please?
Yes, it's Kathleen, Kathleen, Mezoff, Mezoss.
So, Dr. Mezoff, I'm not sure what's happening. When you first start to speak, it's loud and clear, and then it becomes muddy and low.
Okay. I will try to speak up.
All right, thank you.
And if it doesn't, I'm on my cell phone. I can go to my landline if you're still having trouble.
Okay. Let's
Dear
start.
members of the Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. Please start again.
Dear members of the Environmental Improvement Board, I am Dr. Kathy Mezoff, a retired pediatrician who practiced in Gallup at Rehoboth McKinley Christian Hospital for 34 years. You would be right to suspect that as a pediatrician, I have a very special place in my heart for babies and children. New Mexico is home to some of the worst methane and ozone precursor pollution in the country. We know that babies and children with their small lungs and developing brains are at great risk from the pollutants and toxins from oil and gas operations. It is therefore imperative from a public health perspective that we stop the 1 million tons of climate warming methane and the hundreds of thousands of tons of volatile organic compounds that endanger the health, especially of those in the rural areas of southeast and northwest New Mexico. Cancers, asthma, and heart disease, to name a few. Leaks due to equipment malfunction and lack of maintenance account oil and gas industry's methane emissions in the state. In addition to the health and quality of life concerns in Eddy, Lea, and San Juan counties, methane pollution accelerates climate change, which will especially affect the futures of our children as it worsens and accelerates. Our weather is already causing frequent catastrophes across the world, as you know. Rules to curb methane waste and pollution Hello? Hello?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Medoff, and thank you for persisting with us.
Okay, I hope it all came through. Thank you.
All right, let me look one more time for Matthew Allen. Not seeing Matthew Allen. All right, in the event Mr. Allen joins us on the platform later, I'd be happy to accept his comment at another session. So let's return to the technical case. And as I understand the spreadsheet, Ms. Katz, we are still on topic 22. We go back to Ms. Keene. You said not Mr. Palmer. Ms. Paranos, although I see witness Lyon under the EDF column, Ms. Paranos messaged that in fact she did not have us to rebuttal witness on this topic.
Yes, okay, that's what I understood as well. So so the department calls back Ms. Keene.
All right. Will there be slides?
No, there will not. There's just a few questions here.
All right, thank you.
So Ms. Keene, in regarding Mr. Holderman's discussion of Oxy's proposal to use actual emissions for determining applicability, does the department believe that actual emissions are appropriate for determining applicability under this rule? And is that an approach that is used in federal regulatory applicability?
The department does not agree with that proposal or find that it is appropriate. The use of potential to emit to determine applicability of air quality regulations and permitting requirements is a common and long-standing practice utilized by state and federal air quality regulatory agencies. The use of actual emissions to determine applicability is not acceptable, as that calculation is based on previous year's records of operation of the source, which may not be representative of a source's future operations or emissions. Because actual emissions can change year to year depending on numerous factors, including economics, regulatory requirements, political decisions, consumer demand, and market conditions, that measure cannot be considered reliable or representative emission rate with respect to determining applicability under this part. Potential to emit, on the other hand, is a source's maximum capacity to emit an air pollutant under its physical and operational design, and is a much more accurate and reliable estimation of the source's emissions.
Thank you, Ms. Keene. And so Mr. Holderman claimed that there was no way to a PTE, and are there ways for a source to limit PTE?
Yes, there are many opportunities for a source to limit the potential to emit. And the regulatory mechanism to do so is to obtain a federally enforceable air permit that's issued by the department that limits either a facility or source's potential to emit. That PTE then can be used to determine applicability under this part. And in addition, every section of this part contains both an applicability on-ramp and applicability off-ramp. So it is not just limited to that specific allowance to obtain an air permit to limit the source's emissions.
So there are PTE thresholds specified throughout the various sections of the rule that if a source is below that, then that section applies to them, correct?
Ms. Katz, you broke up there right at the end.
Okay, sorry, yeah. I stopped talking and everybody acted like they didn't hear me. So I was just saying that there's PTE thresholds provided throughout the various sections of the rule. And if a source is below that threshold, then that section would not apply to that source. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Katz. And Ms. Keene, let me pause a moment. In the event another party would like to present themselves on screen to question Ms. Keene on this point. No, I'm not seeing any new screens, Ms. Katz. I'm going to turn to the board for their questions. In the event you're on the platform and you would have a question and you are an attendee, please reach out through the chat while I am running through the list of board members. Madam Chair, do you have questions of Ms. Keene?
Yes, thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. It's been a long day and a lot of little glitches. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So from your testimony and the follow-up, there in fact is an off-ramp for to adjust for PTEs and for, as Mr. Holderman's example that he shared with us earlier. In fact, there is an off-ramp.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Vice Chair Trujillo Davis.
I don't have any questions. Member Swina covered mine, so thank you.
Thank you. Member Cates. Don't see Member Cates. Member Bitzer.
I don't have any questions, Madam Hearing Officer.
Thank you. Member Duval.
No questions. Thanks.
Member Garcia.
Yes, thank you. I do have a clarifying question, if I may. Ms. Keene, you mentioned that PTE is a common and longstanding practice or term used in federal and state regulations. So are you saying this is something that the industry should be already used to, this term, and understand how it works and how it would fit into their processes?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Honker. I believe you're saying no questions. All right, thank you. We have come to the end of this testimony then. Thank you, Ms. Keene and Ms. Katz. Do I understand that from here we go back to Mr. Smitherman? Let's see, witnesses Smitherman, Davis, and Nolting, or
Maybe did we get off then? That means because then what we just did was probably what we were supposed to do on the other end of this. So so yes, I guess we have to go through the list again, I guess.
all right.
This is Ana Gutierrez. I can say that on behalf of Kinder Morgan, we don't have rebuttal or additional testimony on this topic.
Thank you very much. Mr. Heiser? Let's see.
Madam Madam Hearing Officer, I think we had a very little bit of brief thing for Mr. Smitherman. Yes, I think he's still with us.
All right.
We do have a little bit of rebuttal on this topic 22.
Go
Could I
ahead.
have sharing capabilities, please?
Should have it now, John.
Okay. I think we're ready.
Yes, I think in your prior testimony, you briefly touched on stabilized and sort of hinted to the board that more would be coming. Would you like to explain to the board and parties here the concern around stabilized as it relates to the definitions?
Certainly. Thank you. We suggested adding stabilized as a defined topic or defined term. NMED first basically said that they don't agree with that because it doesn't show up anywhere in the rule. And actually the word stabilized or stabilizing shows up in the definition of gathering and boosting stations. And it does have an impact when especially when a certain type of tank is used, either an external or internal floating roof tank. And those are different than your typical normal storage vessel. A normal storage vessel, you look at the outside shell, it's fixed. The top is where the top is. Inside, it's nothing but open. And so you could have liquids or gases that go from the very top of the tank to the very bottom of the tank. And so as fluids move in or out of that tank, a normal storage tank, whatever is above the liquid, we call that the headspace. Whatever's above that can be gas vapors, and you may need to be able to capture those gases if, for example, the liquid level rises, it tends to push those vapors out the top. And so many of the rules requirements are geared towards those type of tanks. But you can also have floating roof tanks. And here, in essence, there isn't a headspace. There isn't a gaseous area above the liquid that could contain vapors. You've got basically a round floating roof that sits right on top of the liquids and is sealed. And so you don't have the same considerations and the same possibilities for emissions on those type of tanks. So it's important to understand that those do exist. and that those, go ahead.
No, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No, just choked a little bit. So sorry about that. It's late in the day. Floating roof tanks are typically governed by NSPS subpart K little b. And so we would like to recognize that and in essence, make sure that there's not any conflict between this new Part 50 and those national standards.
And so when we had included, Namoga had talked about this previously, this had been sort of what we had been intending to get to, and then we just not been able to, we hadn't completed the connection in the other section. And this is just explaining why that definition was in the rationale.
That's correct. It was a little bit of an oversight on our part, or maybe just incompleteness on our part.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else?
I wanted to clarify something. In my rebuttal testimony, I had stated that gas compressors at well sites were not included in this part, and that was, I probably overstated what I meant. What I meant was, quite frankly, all gas compressors, all engines and gas compressors are covered by this part if they meet the applicability standards. And they tend to end up in either well sites, gathering and boosting stations, or transmission compressor stations. So there's no exclusions for compressors that happen to be at well sites. Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, and just trying to make sure that make it clear that we're not trying to create any loopholes in the rules by that prior statement.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate that clarification. That's all from us on Sir Rebuttal, Madam Hearing Officer.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Smith, thank you for making the screen clear again. Ms. Katz, I see you on screen. Do you have questions of Mr. Smitherman?
No questions, Madam Hearing Officer, just to say that that NMED accepts the definition of stabilized, and if we had been pointed to that before, we would have been able to accept it prior to the hearing. So thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Katz. Very sorry again. You cut out. Would you start from the beginning again?
Sorry about that. NMED can accept the proposed definition of stabilized, and if we had known that and we'd been pointed to where that occurred and what the rationale was, we would have accepted it prior to the hearing.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let me ask if there are any other council or party representatives who have a question of Mr. Smitherman. Please turn on your screen. No, I'll go to the board then for their questions. And while I'm doing that, if you are on the platform as an attendee and would have a question, please reach out through the chat. Madam Chair, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Trujillo Davis.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Cates? Don't see. Member Bitzer?
No questions, Madam Hearing Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Duvall?
No questions.
All right. Member Garcia?
Questions, thank you.
No questions. And Member Honker?
No questions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Smitherman.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Do we go back to, Ms. Gutierrez already said we do not go back to Ms. Knowlting. Does that mean we have wrapped up topic 22? Ms. Katz, going once, going twice?
It appears. I hope so.
All right. Terrific. So we can talk about tomorrow. I suspect it might be too late to leap into another topic, unless you think the definition of construction. No, we've got about a dozen witnesses on that. What did you think, Ms. Katz?
So I first want to say that at the rate we're going right now, we are not going to get through this hearing in the time allotted, it seems. I'm getting concerned about that. So I guess, I mean, so as far as tomorrow goes, so we have to get through the general provisions. In topic 23, engines and turbines are is a very large section. And I guess I'm wondering, especially if the parties are going to discuss at length revisions that have already been made and accepted and agreed upon by everybody, it's going to really draw things out. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to maybe streamline those presentations in a way that might, where those could be more brief and the board could ask questions about those if they had them, but that we could focus more on the areas of disagreement. Because it does seem like if we go at the rate we did today, we'll get through the next two topics. Yeah, that's what I would predict based on where we're at, is that we would get through 23 and 24 and maybe 25 tomorrow, if we were lucky.
Okay. So we can have that conversation certainly while we're on the platform. I'm not sure if you want to do it on the platform or if you want to do that amongst yourselves, because essentially it would mean revising the spreadsheet into which all of the council had input. Let me just mention another possibility. Um, became clear in the methane hearing with the Oil Conservation Commission in January that we were not going to be able to wrap up within 2 weeks if we had the hours most commonly associated with banking, for example. And so we started at 8 every morning. And we can do that so long as we announce it in time for folks to understand that that's the new start time. Mr. Heiser, I see you on screen.
So, Madam Hearing Officer, I tend to agree with Ms. Katz that there is a certain amount of slowness here, and it perhaps would be useful if we could, amongst the council, have a discussion. But part of the challenge for NMOGA is, without knowing what other parties are doing, we have a record that we have to protect. And so we can't simply not do anything because we don't know what the other parties are going to do. And so if we knew what other parties had objections to, we could then stipulate on those things. Where there are not those objections, that our testimony is there, we could move much faster. But without knowing that, and without knowing the positions on cross, we're unable to not protect our record. So that's part of the reason things are slow. So I'm fully in agreement with Ms. Katz that if we could do that, we in NMOGA would be very supportive of that as well.
So let me ask, is there some way in which I can facilitate this conversation among council? Set up a virtual meeting amongst you all and then exit. Set up a virtual meeting with you all and stick around. I'm not making any recommendations to the board. I really am just here to smooth the process. So I'll be part of the discussion if you want. Otherwise, I can just exit. What are your druthers?
So I will, of course, this is Ms. Katz's petition and rule, so I think that she should have the primary say about what would be done. But we would be happy to meet with other council and sort of ascertain where the points of disagreement are, and then to reshuffle the proceeding to sort of address that, so that we can move more expeditiously through those sections of the rule, which we think there are several where there's not a lot of disagreement between the parties, so that we can make more expeditious process and really focus the board's attention on those areas that really need the board's resolution and input.
Thank you. I see, or did, Mr. Boutier.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. I think it might make sense to either stay on this call and have the board members drop off and have a discussion now, or perhaps try to do the discussion among council at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And that may be preferable so people can collect their thoughts. But I wanted to just address real quickly two things. One is on the schedule, we think that maybe the discussion of the definition of construction ought to be moved from its current location as part of topic 21, or excuse me, topic 23 down to topic 24, because it does not relate to 122 and instead relates more, we think, to section 113. That's one suggestion. The other thing, looking forward to next week, we noticed that there are 3 of the pneumatics witnesses who are not available Thursday and Friday, and we thought it might make sense to try to get a hard date, and we would propose Tuesday as the date that we start the morning on the pneumatics topic. And if we do that, it's possible that I'm more optimistic, I think, than maybe others that we might be able to get through this in 2 weeks, especially now that we have streamlined things somewhat from the way we started the proceeding. Those are my only thoughts. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I will definitely be on the platform at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I'm looking forward to any way at all in which council can propose moving more expeditiously, and do be sure to let me know how I can help. I felt like suggesting that cross-examination be handled just by people showing up on screen worked pretty well today. If you don't agree, let me know, but I thought that worked. Is there anything else we can talk about tonight? I mean, I'm happy to go longer if you'd like to leap into something.
Madam Hearing Officer, one other thing we could do is, we're spending time summarizing what's already been submitted. And so we can look at, I don't know that it's really all that necessary to summarize our direct and rebuttal, since it's already full direct and rebuttals in writing. So, and rather getting to, in essence, responding to the department's proposed changes earlier this month might be the better way to go. And just admit that testimony and go straight to that. And cross might be a more appropriate approach.
I think that sounds like a great suggestion as well. Oh, Ms. Fox.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. We have already very much, gotten our direct and rebuttal down to a short amount of time. And so we would like to present our direct and rebuttal, even if in more shortened form, for the board to, enhance their understanding of what we have filed in writing.
All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Fox. I think perhaps, I think the parties have been very good about brief summaries and not sort of stretching their testimony out to 30 minutes just because they could. So I think that's a good observation. Mr. Jano, I see you on screen.
I would tend to agree with Ms. Fox. I think that the parties have done a tremendous job in moving forward and not taking up more time than is necessary, but certainly putting in context what's in voluminous papers that will be presented or have been presented to the board, I think makes a lot of sense. And indeed, as we were talking about earlier today, doing a little bit of the hardwiring to say this provision connects over here, we'll be talking to you about it more. I think that helps provide at least some signposts and a little bit of a story here in a way that I would think is important and frankly key to advocacy in this type of proceeding. So I would respectfully disagree with my good friend Mr. Rose that we dispense with summaries. Let's just let's make them tight, let's make them brief, and make them work, like Ms. Fox was saying.
All right, thank you very much for that. Is there anything else we can talk about while we're on the call tonight? I have one thing, please. Tomorrow, I need a hard stop at noon, and we'll reconvene at 1 for public comment. And I'm sorry if that will be in the middle of someone's testimony, but I do need a hard stop at noon for a 1-hour lunch break, and I'm definitely not suggesting we get used to luxuriously long lunch breaks. Mr. Rose, I see you on the screen again.
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest, and it's up to you, Madam Hearing Officer, is we're all assuming that our summaries are helpful to the board, and maybe they are. I'd be curious what the board wants to see, as opposed to what we think the board wants to see how effective that is. So I don't want to preclude people from making statements, but I think it might be helpful if you could give us some feedback in terms of what the board finds useful and not so useful.
All righty. Madam Chair or Vice Chair or the members still on the platform with us, do you have any feedback for council?
Yes, I'll let Member Garcia go first. Go ahead, Member.
Oh, no, Madam Chair, you go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, all I was going to say is I appreciate the discussion and I did find that repeating things that are already agreed upon didn't seem as productive. So I appreciate that that may be dispensed with. But as far as whether a summary is useful or not, I think we can read through the summaries and get to the meat of the discussion and kind of figure it out would be my thought. If the parties wish to give a very brief summary, that would be okay, but we can also read through it and then get to the meat of the issue right away. I would be okay with that.
Thank you.
Madam Hearing Officer, if I may, yeah, I think one of the things that's been, as what was demonstrated earlier today, is what's the latest information? What have the parties come to consensus on in terms of the language? What's still outstanding in terms of contention? Those aspects, I guess, too. I'm still trying to track that, and then, in the case again, not pointing fingers, but we didn't have the exhibits. I didn't know if there were details within those exhibits that applied, of course, probably because they were submitted. But so just kind of those logistics, and I think it also helps to hear from the parties to what has already been like straightforward. This was an issue. It's no longer an issue. Let's move on. But just to note that, at least in the record, I know we have public members that are watching the proceedings as well. So, I know it helps for them as well to hear that we have taken a look at that. We've looked and heard from the people during this hearing, and trying to make sure that we get those all parties and stakeholders comments and input in making the decisions. So that's kind of where I stand, and I know however we can expedite that in terms of the confusion of paperwork. I know we're in virtual world. I see all on little screens today, but I'm all for that too, expediting however the various stakeholders and legal counsels see fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members? Vice Chair.
I agree with Ms. Sweeney or Member Sweeney. I do like to see where there is agreement between the different parties that the issues have been addressed. But I really would like to get to the crux of the issues where there is time that should be spent on debate on the issues. So whatever we can do to get us to that, I think it's super helpful.
Thank you. Any other board members with a comment? No. Mr. Nightkeel, you have a comment?
On a separate matter that we can get to before we hop off.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I have one other comment.
Yeah.
So if you guys decide tonight with that after this hearing, today's hearing to go to 8, I just wanted to throw out there because when we started at 9, I had a whole bunch of stuff between 7:30 and 9 o'clock that I already scheduled in, but I can make those adjustments if need be. And I just want to throw it out there. I can stay later if that, I know it cuts into the evening time, but just throwing that out there.
All right, thank you. Great. I wouldn't do that without discussion.
Okay.
Ms. Katz?
Yes, Madam Hearing Officer, I will say that I am particularly exhausted tonight, and I would really prefer to not keep going tonight, to have it tonight. and if other people were amenable, I mean, I will push through if everybody wants to stay, but it's been a pretty grueling many days and many weeks before that. So
All
yeah.
right. Thank you for that.
And I think it's Mr. Boutier's suggestion for council to get together in the morning at 8 and maybe talk through some of it would be helpful. And I appreciate the board weighing in on what's helpful for them. So thank you all.
All right. I see Member Hunker. Member Hunker.
Just a point of clarification. So if the councils have a discussion at 8 a.m., back to Chair Sweeney's concern, I would assume the board members would just tune in at 9 and not be part of the council's discussion.
That's exactly right, Member Hunker. Yes. Mr. Nightkill?
Yeah, this is going back to our exhibits, and I just wanted to make sure I had heard that perhaps Pam had directed the board to a link on the NMED webpage, and I would just, if it's possible, I had submitted to Pam and the other parties well, I think just to Pam, a zip file that individualizes the exhibits rather than puts them in bulk, which is, I think, what Pam referred to on the website. And so I just think that would be easier for the board to view if they had a zip file that individualized the exhibits, and just would request that Pam share that with the board so it's easier to view.
Okay.
I can do that.
All right. Pam has said she can do that. Thank you, Pam.
I just wanted to respond to Mr. Nyko. I'm sorry, I totally murdered your last name. I apologize for that. When I pulled up the file, it had a table of contents and it allowed me to separate your exhibits so I could see them individually.
Perfect, that's great.
All right, thank you.
you.
Anything else before we adjourn for the evening? I think we have a plan. Council and party representatives on this platform at 8, board members at 9. We'll take public comment then. All right, thank you all very much. We'll see you in the morning.
I'm assuming I don't have to be here at 8.
No, it won't be. Thank you very much, Teresa, for clarifying that. It won't be on the transcript. Thank you.